Hey guys, Jason here for TCG Alerts. Last night I'm in bed, I'm watching some TV, and I left my computer on, and I'm hearing Telegram going off alert after alert after alert. And I know the alert system's doing something, and I just walk out there, I close the lid on my laptop, I go back to bed, and I even got a message from one of my buddies and chart guys saying, "Hey, are you seeing this stuff?" And without even checking, I said, "Yep," and just went back to the TV. Man, did I miss out, because there was some huge volatility yesterday. If you saw Dan's video earlier, Tether has seen a monster dump in the last 24 hours, and all of that Tether money is moving around into other coins, and we're seeing a huge bullish response in Bitcoin and EOS and a lot of things. So I wanted to do a quick 24-hour recap of what we've been seeing on the alert system and some of the configurations that you can use to capture these moments, and how you too can get amazing alerts that you can ignore when you'd rather just be watching TV and miss out on profitable opportunities. So let's take a look at Bitcoin. Key alerts for these breakouts we've talked about before: the oversold bounces, price shears, and abnormal volumes. So the first couple we see are not related to our dump not related to our breakout that we want to talk about today, but just look how effective these are. Abnormal volume on the 15-minute, we're catching this overbought indicator. The size of the range is always going to influence what you see as being overbought, because overbought here is not nearly as much of a run as we see this overbought that happened last night. And that's because the range is tighter, we get an abnormal volume, our overbought is going to happen on a much smaller scale. So the trailing scale is always going to be important. But look how effective that is. Abnormal volume right into overbought, abnormal volume and sideways movement. We see an oversold in the 15. Then we get into the good stuff. So 6 a.m. UTC, it's about 11 o'clock-ish, 10 o'clock-ish Pacific time. And we see abnormal volume, and the price just absolutely spikes. So we get this abnormal volume, we immediately get into overbought territory. RSI had to have been absolutely huge, all the way up into the 90s by the time we finished. Ultimately 94.62 according to our system. So we get this nice immediate overbought alert, keeps driving, another abnormal volume, one last push to another signal for 15-minute overbought conditions before we consolidate down. On 30-minute time frame, we see this oversold on abnormal volume preceding the action. We see the breakout, abnormal volume, overbought conditions again. RSI doesn't get high enough to trip another 30-minute overbought condition before we fall back down to earth a little bit. And even our mid-range overbought condition on the hourly time frame doesn't quite capture the peak of the absolute madness that we saw. But it did show up. In addition to being on Bitcoin, we saw this breakout on multiple coins. So let's go take a look at some of those as well. Here's a really nice one on XRP, which has been a crowd favorite to be traded over the last couple weeks. We see a couple of key things here happening. We get an abnormal volume on a little dump. We get an oversold condition into abnormal volume, signaling potential bottom. Then we go sideways a little bit in what you could look at as a sort of triangle equilibrium. I haven't investigated it into too much detail here. But what is really important is we get this immediate price shear. So price shears can be one of the first signals that you can see when you're getting into a breakout situation. And the price shear was designed during the amazing run that we had last year on crypto, where the shear condition was one of the first things that you would get before you had these monster breakouts. That's what makes shear so valuable. There are going to be times when you're trading sideways that these volatility indicators aren't going to be as effective. But when you get into this exact situation, the price shear is your absolute best friend trading. So when we get our price shear, we get our abnormal volume, and we get overbought conditions in the 15-minute time frame, that means huge things are happening. So we can see that absolute rocket ship up, one little period of consolidation, another abnormal volume, another overbought conditions before we come back down. And over here we see another price shear. This is a continuation of this price shear. So this one goes into timeout, and eventually we see it fire again. And this third price shear is a valid price shear. We just don't get any continuation after that, given the fact that we've just run so much and our RSI is still going to be quite high at this time. We are pushing into the 68, 70s. So obviously we need some cooling, and we're seeing that now on the 15-minute time frame. Let's look at a couple more. I think EOS is a good example here. This is another textbook play. We see our price shear, abnormal volume, and our overbought indicators. Catching again the second 15-minute overbought indicator right around the top, abnormal volume, really nailing it, and then we see a price shear continuation. So we are now in a little bit of an equilibrium. We're going to see what happens following this big breakout. I guess it really depends on what Tether is going to do, and we will need to watch the Tether charts to see if Tether actually starts to get back to its one-to-one pairing that it's supposed to do in these situations. If you want more information, Dan put out a video this morning that covers it in a lot more detail than I'm going to talk about here. So please go and check that out. And I wanted to show one last chart. Coinbase listed a new coin, ZRX. I sent an email about it. I saw the email pop up in my inbox, and then immediately I happened to have a price shear indicator set up for ZRX BTC, and that fired off. That was my only indication that anything was happening here on ZRX. So we have, since receiving that email, added in ZRX USD on our Coinbase Pro on the alert system, so you'll be able to start getting alerts for those. But this is exactly what we have the price shear for. We want to know early on when we're going to get big moves, and when we get big moves with abnormal volume, often they can lead into periods of consolidation before continuation. Let's see if that plays out. So thank you for watching again. Check out the other video that Dan did this morning. A lot of good, valuable information in there, and I appreciate everyone watching the videos and supporting the alert system. Have a good rest of your day.